The request for help arrived at the worst possible moment. The Galactic Accord Assembly was already arguing when the transmission broke through emergency channels. 47 civilizations occupied the vast circular chamber of Helio Station, their delegates seated beneath a transparent dome that revealed a spiral of distant stars. The stars were meant to inspire unity. Instead, they watched indifference unfold. Ambassador Sarah Tal of Inyari stood alone on the central platform. Her species was small, fragile by galactic standards. Translucent skin reflected faint blue light from the chamber floor, and exhaustion showed in every movement she made. She had crossed half the Accord's territory to reach this meeting. Her world would not survive another week. "The Court Dominion has established orbital siege," she said, voice steady only through effort. 280 warships surround Yara Prime. All trade lanes closed. Civilian evacuation denied. A projection appeared above her. Her planet rotated slowly. Beautiful oceans, silver continents, and a ring of hostile vessels glowing like a tightening noose. "Our atmospheric stabilizers require external fuel shipments every 18 cycles. We have 5 cycles remaining." Silence followed. Everyone understood what that meant. After 5 cycles, the stabilizers would fail. After failure, the oceans would boil into toxic vapor. After that, extinction. "We joined the Accord because we believe collective defense protected peaceful civilizations," Sarah continued. "I ask only that the Accord honor its own charter." She bowed her head. "Please, send ships." The chamber remained quiet. Then came the responses. The Vrax coalition spoke first. Their representative's mechanical voice carried polite regret. "Direct military action against the Court Dominion risks large-scale conflict. We recommend negotiation." Negotiation. A word that meant delay. Delay meant death. Next came the Lutheri strategists. They displayed calculations instead of emotion. Projected losses versus strategic value. Nyara Prime ranked low. Conclusion. Intervention inefficient. More delegates followed. Sympathy. Regret. Concern. No fleets. No soldiers. No help. Sarah felt hope slipping away piece by piece. The galaxy was not cruel. It was worse. It was practical. In the back rows sat humanity's representative, Commander Elias Ward. Earth had joined the Accord only 12 years earlier. Humans were considered enthusiastic newcomers, idealistic, technologically promising, strategically irrelevant. Ward listened without speaking. He watched an entire alliance justify abandonment. He felt something cold settle inside him. Not rage. Certainty. He activated his communicator and sent a single encrypted message to Earth Command. "They are letting them die." He waited. The session continued. Excuses filled the chamber. Sarah Tal stopped pleading. She simply stood there, understanding at last that no one was coming. Then every console in the chamber chimed simultaneously. A new filing appeared in the Accord registry. Public, official, irrevocable. Commander Ward read it once. Then he smiled faintly. The message displayed across the chamber. United Earth Defense Authority invokes Emergency Protection Clause. 1 vessel dispatched for humanitarian intervention. Designation, UES Sentinel. Arrival estimate, for standard cycles. Confusion spread instantly. 1 vessel, someone asked. The Court Dominion envoy rose slowly, amusement clear in his expression. "You oppose a Dominion siege with 1 ship?" Laughter rippled through the chamber. Even sympathetic species looked embarrassed for humanity. 280 warships surrounded Nyara Prime. 1 ship was not aid. It was suicide. Ambassador Sarah stared at the message, unsure whether to feel grateful or horrified. She searched the chamber until she found Commander Ward. He met her gaze. He gave a small nod. Not confidence, not arrogance, just a promise. "We are coming." Later, in a quiet corridor, a senior Vrax commander stopped Ward. "Your people misunderstand the situation," the alien said gently. "You are sending lives to certain death." Ward shrugged. "Maybe. Then why do it?" Ward thought about the dying planet, about the silence in the chamber, about civilizations powerful enough to help choosing comfort instead. "Because someone has to," he said. The Vrax commander watched him walk away, unsettled by how calm the humans seemed. Far across interstellar darkness, engines ignited. The UES Sentinel accelerated beyond classified limits. It did not travel with escort ships. It did not broadcast fleet signatures. It moved alone. Inside its armored hull were 4,000 volunteers who had accepted a mission briefing containing one simple truth: they might not return. Human naval doctrine called vessels like the Sentinel Singularity-class warships, ships designed for one purpose: to stand alone when no one else would. And as it cut through hyperspace toward a dying world, the rest of the galaxy waited, certain they were about to witness humanity's first great mistake. They were wrong. The first ships to detect the UES Sentinel were not the Court Dominion warships. They were traitors. Independent cargo haulers moving along the outer edges of Nyara's system detected an energy surge unlike anything recorded before. Sensors struggled to interpret it. Readings fluctuated between battleship-level output and something closer to a small star igniting and collapsing repeatedly. Most captains assumed their instruments were malfunctioning. Then the Sentinel exited faster than light travel. It did not arrive gracefully. Space itself seemed to tear open. A wave of distorted gravity rolled outward as the massive human vessel decelerated, its engines burning with controlled violence. Radiation spikes rippled across local sensors, forcing nearby ships to shut down external arrays temporarily. When visibility returned, the traitors saw it, and none of them immediately understood what they were looking at. The Sentinel was enormous, not elegant like most galactic warships, not symmetrical. It looked engineered rather than designed. Layers of armor plates overlapping like tectonic segments, weapon structures embedded deep within its frame, engine clusters positioned at harsh, aggressive angles. It resembled a fortress forced into motion. Someone aboard a nearby freighter whispered over an open channel, "That is not a rescue ship." In orbit above Nyara Prime, alarms activated across the Court Dominion fleet. Admiral Krell Varen studied the tactical display as a new contact appeared at extreme range. One vessel. Mass readings incorrect. Power output fluctuating. Classification systems failed repeatedly. "Identify," he ordered. His tactical officer hesitated. "We cannot match it to known ship classes, Admiral. It exceeds heavy dreadnought mass, but registers as a single independent unit." Varen frowned. "One ship." "Yes, Admiral." The bridge filled with quiet amusement. The Dominion had crushed rebellions with fleets 10 times larger than this. One ship was meaningless. Still, Varen was not a careless commander. "Send interception wing," he said. Standard warning protocol. 6 Dominion cruisers broke formation and accelerated toward the approaching human vessel. On the bridge of the Sentinel, Captain Mara Ilian watched the intercept markers appear. She stood calmly, hand behind her back. Around her, the crew worked in disciplined silence. No panic, no excitement, only focus. Executive Officer Chen spoke softly. "Intercept wing approaching. 6 cruisers." Ilian nodded. "Expected." She turned slightly. "Helm. Maintain course." "Yes, Captain." The Sentinel did not slow. The Dominion cruisers opened communications. "Human vessel," came the transmission. "You are entering restricted military space. Reverse course immediately or be destroyed." The Sentinel continued forward. Captain Ilian activated the response channel. Her voice carried across the system. "This is Captain Mara Ilian of the United Earthship Sentinel. We are conducting lawful humanitarian intervention under Accord Charter Authority. Withdraw blockade immediately." Silence followed. Then laughter. "You misunderstand," the Dominion commander replied. "You are alone." Ilian's expression did not change. "Yes," she said. "We are." She paused. "You should still move." On the Dominion cruiser bridge, Commander Rel Voss felt unease crawl up his spine. The human captain did not sound brave. She sounded certain. Sensor officers began reporting irregularities. "Commander," energy readings increasing. "How much?" "Continuously rising." "I do not understand the source." The Sentinel's hull shifted subtly. Panels rotated. Hidden structures unfolded. Weapon arrays powered online one by one. The ship's energy signature multiplied instantly. Voss stared at his screen. This is not a standard warship. Before he could give new orders, a calm synthetic voice transmitted across open frequencies. This is Sentinel Tactical Intelligence Network. You are within engagement range. The Dominion ships locked weapons. Fire. 6 cruisers unleashed their opening volley. Beams, missiles, and plasma impacts engulfed the Sentinel in white light. Observers across the system watched the explosion bloom. For several seconds, the human ship vanished inside the storm. Then the light faded. The Sentinel was still moving. Hull integrity, 98%. Adaptive armor had already begun restructuring. Incoming fire efficiency dropped with each impact. The Dominion crew stared in disbelief. The human ship did not evade. It learned. Captain Ilian spoke calmly. Tactical AI. Response authorized. Confirmed. The Sentinel moved for the first time. Acceleration slammed it forward with impossible force for a vessel its size. Dominion targeting computers lagged behind its sudden motion. Hidden launch bays opened. Thousands of autonomous combat drones poured into space like a metallic storm. Each drone selected targets independently. Each moved faster than manned fighters could track. Within seconds, Dominion cruisers lost shields, engines, and weapons simultaneously. No reactors targeted. No crew compartments struck. Just surgical disablement. 6 cruisers drifted powerless in under 20 seconds. On Yara Prime, millions watched the sky. Hope returned for first time in weeks. Admiral Varen's amusement vanished. He leaned forward slowly. Full fleet alert. New data flooded his displays. The human vessel possessed combat output equivalent to an entire strike fleet. One ship, acting like many. Reclassify threat, he ordered. The computer paused before updating. Strategic level asset detected. Varen felt something unfamiliar. Concern. The human ship resumed its steady advance toward the blockade. Unhurried. Unstoppable. And for the first time since the siege began, the Dominion fleet realized something deeply uncomfortable. The humans had not sent one ship because they lacked a fleet. They had sent one ship because they believed one was enough. News of the disabled interception wing spread to the Court Dominion fleet faster than official reports. 6 cruisers neutralized in less than a minute. No confirmed human casualties. Minimal destructive fire used. That last detail unsettled experienced commanders more than the loss itself. The human ship had chosen restraint. That meant confidence. Admiral Krell Varen stood silently before the tactical display as the Sentinel advanced deeper into the blockade perimeter. 280 warships surrounded Nyara Prime in layered formation. Outer screen vessels repositioned automatically, tightening defensive geometry. Heavy carriers shifted toward engagement range. Siege platforms maintained weapon lock on the planet below, ready to enforce surrender if needed. Standard Dominion doctrine. Overwhelming pressure. Break resistance without wasting resources. Varen had executed the strategy dozens of times. It had never failed. Until now. Analysis, he ordered. A tactical officer responded carefully. The human vessel is not behaving according to known fleet doctrine. It is advancing directly toward the siege line, rather than attempting escape or reinforcement. Varen nodded slowly. They are not here to survive. He understood suddenly. They are here to succeed. On Yara Prime, emergency councils gathered in underground command chambers. Ambassador Saratal watched the orbital feed with trembling hands. The Sentinel hung above the system like a dark star moving closer every minute. Her people had expected diplomacy. Instead, humanity had sensed something terrifying. One of the council elders whispered, "Why would they risk this for us?" Sarah answered quietly, "Because we asked." Back aboard the Sentinel, Captain Mara Ilian reviewed incoming fleet movements. Red markers multiplied across the tactical display. Dominion warships were converging. Executive Officer Chin spoke. They're forming kill geometry. Entire fleet engagement likely. Ilian nodded once. Expected. She turned toward the central console. Status report. The AI responded instantly. Combat readiness optimal. Drone complement at 97%. Adaptive hull learning efficiency increased by 42% following initial engagement. Probability of mission success? Chen asked. The AI paused briefly. Blockade interdiction success probability, 64%. And survival? Chen asked. Another pause. Lower. No one reacted. Every officer aboard already understood. Across the blockade, Dominion commanders received new orders. All ships converge. Destroy the human vessel. Hundreds of engines ignited simultaneously. From orbit, the fleet moved like a tightening net. Cruisers, battleships, and carriers closing from every direction, surrounding the Sentinel in a sphere of firepower capable of erasing entire civilizations. Observers from the Galactic Accord watched through long-range probes. Many expected the battle to end quickly. No ship could survive that level of force. Admiral Varen opened a system-wide transmission. "Human vessel," he said, voice calm and authoritative. "You have demonstrated unexpected capability. Withdraw now. Your survival remains possible." Captain Ilian answered immediately. "This blockade ends today. You cannot defeat this fleet." Ilian's reply carried no emotion. "We do not need to defeat it." A brief pause followed. "We only need you to stop." Varen felt irritation rise. He gave the order. "Engage." The fleet fired. Hundreds of weapons discharged simultaneously. Space turned white. Energy beams crossed like storms of lightning. Missile swarms filled the void. Plasma impacts struck from every vector. The Sentinel vanished inside an expanding sphere of destruction. Shock waves rippled through nearby ships. For several seconds, no sensors could penetrate the blast. Dominion crews waited for debris. Instead, readings stabilized. The human ship emerged. Damaged, scarred, still advancing. Adaptive armor shifted visibly across its surface, reconfiguring under continuous assault. Energy output increased rather than decreased. The Sentinel accelerated directly into the converging fleet. "Tactical AI," Ilian said calmly. "Engagement authorization." Confirmed. The Sentinel awakened fully. Weapon systems deployed across its hull. Beam arrays fired in precise sequences, disabling engines and shield emitters with surgical accuracy. Missile batteries launched coordinated strikes targeting command relays instead of reactors. Drone swarms expanded outward, thousands moving as a single intelligent organism. Dominion formations fractured almost immediately. Ships lost coordination. Weapons failed. Communication networks collapsed. The human vessel did not destroy indiscriminately. It dismantled the fleet. On the Dominion flagship, alarm indicators flooded Varen's bridge. Multiple ships disabled. Drone swarms penetrating defensive grids. "Our targeting systems cannot track all contacts." Varen stared at the advancing Sentinel. It was not fighting like a warship. It was fighting like an entire navy condensed into one mind. He realized something chilling. Humanity had designed a vessel that removed the need for fleets entirely. The Sentinel reached the blockade's inner layer. The siege ships protecting Nyara Prime attempted emergency retreat. Too late. Precision strikes severed their weapon arrays one after another. Planet-killing cannons went silent. The path to the planet cleared. On Nyara Prime, alarm switched from extinction countdown to atmospheric stabilization recovery. The blockade was breaking. Captain Ilian watched the tactical display shift from red to scattered amber. Mission objective approaching completion. But the battle was not over. The remaining Dominion fleet regrouped behind her position. Hundreds of ships preparing one final coordinated assault. Chen spoke quietly. "They're committing everything." Ilian nodded. "Then we finish it." She leaned forward slightly. "Tactical AI initiate protocol Aegis." For the first time since activation, the AI hesitated. Protocol Aegis exceeds recommended operational limits. "I know," she said. Authorization confirmed. Across the Sentinel, systems surged beyond safe thresholds. Engines roared with amplified output. Weapon capacitors overloaded with stored energy. The ship itself seemed awake into something greater than a machine. Outside, the Dominion fleet advanced for decisive engagement. Inside the Sentinel, every crew member understood the same truth. They had not come to win a battle. They had come to end the siege, no matter the cost. Protocol Aegis changed the Sentinel. Across the ship, power systems surged past standard limits. Lights dimmed, then flared brighter as reserve reactors synchronized. The vibration running through the hull was no longer the rhythm of engines alone. It felt like pressure building inside something alive. Crew members felt it without needing explanation. The ship was no longer holding anything back. Chief Engineer Malik's voice came over internal comms. "Captain, we are exceeding safe thermal margins across 3 reactor layers. We can maintain this state for approximately 40 minutes before structural degradation begins." "Understood," Captain Mara Ilian replied calmly. 40 minutes is enough. Outside, the Dominion fleet closed in. Hundreds of warships formed a tightening sphere around the Sentinel. Battleships moved into overlapping firing arcs. Carriers deployed fighter swarms, and heavy artillery ships aligned weapons designed to crack planetary shields. Admiral Krell Varen intended to end the fight with overwhelming force. "All ships," he ordered. Concentrated fire. No restraint. The fleet obeyed. The second barrage dwarfed the first. Energy weapons converged from every direction. Missile clouds spread across millions of kilometers. Fighter squadrons advanced like storms of metal. The Sentinel vanished again beneath catastrophic firepower. On Accord observation platforms, analysts assumed destruction was inevitable. No vessel could survive sustained attack from an entire Dominion armada. Then sensors registered movement. The Sentinel accelerated, not retreating, charging. It cut directly toward the densest concentration of enemy ships. Inside the Sentinel, tactical AI processed thousands of combat variables simultaneously. Enemy targeting saturation achieved, it reported. Adaptive armor efficiency increased to 79%. Recommend offensive dispersion. Approved, Ilian said. Drone bays open fully. Thousands of autonomous craft erupted into space, expanding outward in layered formations. Instead of attacking randomly, they divided the battlefield into sectors, isolating Dominion ships from one another. Communication relays were destroyed first. Fleet coordination collapsed. Dominion ships began acting independently, exactly as the AI intended. The Sentinel's main weapons activated. Long-range beam cannons fired with terrifying precision, slicing through propulsion systems. Missile salvos targeted shield generators. Point defense networks eliminated incoming torpedoes faster than Dominion computers could calculate trajectories. The battle stopped looking like a fleet engagement. It looked like controlled disassembly. Ship after ship lost mobility. Engines died. Weapons went silent. Crews survived, but they could no longer fight. Captain Ilian watched the tactical display carefully. "Remember," she said quietly to her officers, "we are not here for vengeance." The AI confirmed. Lethal targeting minimized. Strategic disablement prioritized. Admiral Varen felt control slipping away. Reports flooded his bridge. 37 ships disabled. Drone swarms penetrating defensive screens. Command network failure across multiple squadrons. He stared at the human vessel advancing through his fleet like an unstoppable force. It did not maneuver defensively. It moved with purpose. Toward the siege line's command node, his flagship, Varen realized the humans were not trying to defeat every ship. They were breaking the blockade's ability to exist. A single decisive objective. He respected the strategy. He also knew it meant defeat. Close all remaining ships on the human vessel. Varen ordered. We overwhelm it together. The surviving Dominion warships converged. Hundreds of weapons fired simultaneously at close range. For the first time, the Sentinel took serious damage. A heavy plasma strike tore through outer armor plating. Sections of hull vented atmosphere. Internal alarms echoed across multiple decks. Hull breach, deck 16 through 18, the AI reported. Damage control engaged. Captain Ilian remained steady. Keep us moving. The Sentinel surged forward through the firestorm. One Dominion destroyer attempted a ramming maneuver. The Sentinel did not evade. It struck the smaller ship head-on. The destroyer shattered against reinforced armor, debris scattering across space as a human vessel pushed through the wreckage without slowing. The message was unmistakable. Nothing would stop it. On Yara Prime, citizens gathered outside emergency shelters watching orbital projections. The single human ship burned in the sky, surrounded by hundreds of enemies. Yet the red blockade markers kept disappearing. Hope spread faster than fear. A child asked her mother, "Is that ship protecting us?" Her mother answered softly, "Yes." Back on the Sentinel, internal damage reports worsened. Drone losses climbed. Weapon systems overheated. Reactor stress approached critical levels. Executive Officer Chin glanced toward the captain. "We're reaching operational limits." Ilian nodded. "Then it's time." She faced the main display. Tactical AI. Prepare final maneuver. Specify objective. Break their will. A brief pause followed. Understood. The Sentinel suddenly ceased firing. Dominion commanders hesitated, confused. Then the human ship rotated slowly, aligning its forward axis toward empty space between fleet formations. Energy levels spiked dramatically. Every sensor in the system registered the buildup. Varen's eyes widened. What are they doing? The answer came seconds later. The Sentinel fired its spinal accelerator. A dense kinetic projectile launched at near relativistic speed. It struck nothing. Instead, it detonated in open space. The resulting kinetic shockwave rippled outward like invisible thunder, violently disrupting Dominion formations. Massive warships tumbled from position, collision warnings screaming across fleets unprepared for physical displacement on such scale. Perfect formation shattered instantly. The blockade dissolved. The Sentinel advanced through the chaos and positioned itself directly between Yara Prime and the remaining Dominion fleet. Weapons charged, engines blazing. Alone, unyielding, Captain Ilian opened a broadcast channel to every ship in the system. "The blockade has ended," she said calmly. "Withdraw now. No further lives need be lost." Silence followed. Admiral Varen stared at the battered human vessel, hull scarred, sections burning, still standing between his fleet and the planet. He understood at last. The humans had not sent one ship out of desperation. They had sent one ship as proof. Proof that someone would always come. Varen lowered his head slightly. "All Dominion forces," he ordered quietly. "Disengage." Across the system, engines turned away. The blockade fleet began retreating. The siege was over. On the Sentinel's bridge, no one cheered. They watched the enemy withdraw in exhausted silence. Chin spoke softly. "They're leaving." Captain Ilian finally allowed herself to exhale. "Maintain protective orbit," she said, "and broadcast rescue clearance for damaged Dominion vessels." Several officers looked surprised. She met their eyes. "We came to save lives," she said. "All lives." Below them, Nyara Prime skies cleared for the first time in weeks. One ship remained in orbit, scarred, burning, victorious. The silence after battle felt unreal. For nearly 40 minutes, space around Nyara Prime had burned with constant weapons fire. Now only drifting debris and fading energy signatures remained. Disabled Dominion warships floated quietly, rescue beacons blinking across the darkness. At the center of it all, the UES Sentinel held position, above the planet. Its hull was scarred black in places where armor had burned away. Emergency force fields shimmered over open breaches. Repair drones crawled across its surface like tiny sparks of light, sealing damage piece by piece. Inside the ship, exhaustion replaced adrenaline. Damage reports continued arriving. Deck sections destroyed. Medical bays overloaded. 32 injured. 7 crew members missing. Captain Mara Ilian stood on the bridge, reading each name carefully. Victory never felt clean. On Yara Prime, celebrations began slowly. First came disbelief, then confirmation from orbital sensors. The blockade fleet was gone. Trade lanes reopened. Atmospheric fuel convoys were already accelerating toward the system after emergency broadcasts spread through nearby regions. Cities that had prepared for extinction stepped back into sunlight. Ambassador Sarah Tao watched from the Planetary Council chamber as the Sentinel moved into a steady defensive orbit. One ship, still guarding them. She whispered a single word in her native language. It meant protector. Across the galaxy, The recording of the battle spread faster than any official report. Accord observation stations replayed the engagement repeatedly. Military analysts from dozens of civilizations studied every second. The conclusion unsettled everyone. Humanity had built a warship capable of independent strategic dominance. Fleet warfare, the foundation of galactic military doctrine, was suddenly outdated. In the Accord chamber on Helio Station, delegates gathered again. The same seats, the same dome of stars. But the mood had changed. Where humanity had once been treated as a minor member, now every representative watched the human delegation carefully. Commander Elias Ward stood at the rear again. This time, no one ignored him. The Vrax Coalition delegate spoke first. We underestimated human capability. No one disagreed. Another representative added quietly. They intervened where we refused. That observation hung heavily in the chamber, because it was true. Humanity had not changed the outcome alone. It had exposed everyone else. Ward was invited to speak. He walked slowly to the central platform where Ambassador Saratal had once begged for help. He did not bring notes. He did not raise his voice. We did not send the Sentinel to demonstrate power, he said. We sent it because people were about to die. He looked around the chamber. You had the strength to help. You chose not to. No anger. Just fact. Humanity believes alliances mean responsibility, he continued. If the Accord cannot protect its members, then its promises mean nothing. Silence followed. Delegates shifted uncomfortably. Ward finished simply. We hope next time you act before we have to. He stepped away from the platform. No applause came, only understanding. Meanwhile, aboard the Sentinel, recovery operations continued. Chief Engineer Malik supervised repair teams working non-stop to stabilize reactor damage. We push her hard, he told Captain Ilian. Another 10 minutes under protocol aegis, and we might not be having this conversation. Ilian nodded. She held. Malik smiled faintly. She always does. In the medical wing, injured crew recovered slowly. Some joked despite exhaustion. Others slept deeply for the first time since deployment. They had saved a world. But the cost remained real. 7 empty bunks reminded everyone of that. Later, Captain Ilian walked alone through the ship's quiet corridors. She stopped at a viewing port overlooking Nyara Prime. Blue oceans turned beneath cloud cover. Alive, she pressed her hand lightly against the glass. Mission success. But leadership meant remembering the price. The tactical AI's voice spoke softly beside her. Captain, planetary leadership requests permission to transmit gratitude ceremony. She shook her head gently. Tell them we're honored, but we don't need ceremonies. A brief pause. What should I tell them instead? Ilian watched the planet below. Tell them they're safe. 3 weeks later, the Sentinel began its journey home. Convoys escorted supply ships into Nyara system. Reconstruction efforts replaced emergency survival measures with long-term stability. As the human vessel prepared to depart orbit, millions gathered across the planet to watch. The Sentinel slowly turned toward open space. Before jumping to faster-than-light travel, it transmitted one final message. To Nyara Prime, Captain Ilian said, "Live well." Then the ship vanished into hyperspace. Back in human territory, news of the battle had already reached Earth. Civilian vessels filled orbital space waiting for the Sentinel's return. Lights illuminated docking corridors stretching across kilometers. When the damaged ship finally emerged, engines reduced to safe output. Thousands of ships activated signal lights simultaneously. A corridor of stars welcomed it home. Inside the Sentinel, crew members watched silently through viewports. No speeches, no victory music, just quiet acknowledgement. They had done what they were sent to do. Nothing more, nothing less. Across the galaxy, the consequences continued unfolding. Several smaller civilizations formally requested defensive treaties with humanity. Military doctrines were rewritten. The Accord adopted a new emergency response charter requiring collective action during sieges. And in intelligence centers across multiple empires, one question repeated endlessly. If one human ship could do this, how many more existed? Deep within a classified orbital shipyard near Jupiter, Construction platforms illuminated a massive new structure hidden behind asteroid shadows. Hull plating assembled piece by piece. Engine cores activated for testing. Project designation displayed across internal systems. U.S. Guardian, Singularity Class 2. Humanity was building another, not for conquest, not for war, but because somewhere, someday, someone would need help again. And when that day came, one ship would be ready. The Sentinel returned to human space without ceremony. Officially, it was a routine naval arrival. No victory parade had been scheduled. No military broadcast announced its approach. Humanity did not celebrate missions like Nyara Prime with triumph. They recorded them, they remembered them, and they prepared for the next one. Still, word spread faster than command could contain it. By the time the Sentinel exited hyperspace near Earth's orbital defense perimeter, thousands of civilian vessels had already gathered. Cargo haulers paused their routes. Mining ships shut down operations. Private transports altered flight paths. They formed an unspoken corridor through space. Lights activated one by one. Running lights, landing lights, navigation strobes. A silent welcome stretching millions of kilometers. Inside the Sentinel, crew members stood near observation ports watching the glowing path unfold ahead of them. No cheering reached the ship through vacuum, but everyone felt it. Home, Captain Mara Ilian stood alone on the forward observation deck. Earth rotated below. Blue oceans, white storms, city lights beginning to appear along the darkening hemisphere. 7 crew members would never see it again. Their names had already been added to the memorial registry. She whispered them quietly, one after another. Command required strength. Remembrance required honesty. Docking clamps locked onto the Sentinel's hull 2 hours later. Repair crews immediately surrounded the ship. Damage scans revealed just how close the mission had come to disaster. Entire armor layers were gone. Structural support stressed beyond design limits. Weapon systems fused from overuse. The Sentinel had survived by margins measured in seconds. Chief Engineer Malik reviewed the data and shook his head. "She shouldn't have made it back," he muttered. Then he smiled faintly. "But she did." Across the Galactic Accord, political shockwaves continued spreading. Emergency sessions reconvened daily. The Nyara incident became required study material for military academies almost overnight. Every analyst reached the same conclusion. Humanity had introduced a new category of warfare: singularity projection. One ship capable of achieving fleet-level strategic dominance. For civilizations built on numerical superiority, the implication was unsettling. Numbers no longer guaranteed victory. Resolve mattered. Design mattered. Doctrine mattered. And humanity possessed all three. Commander Elias Ward returned to the Accord chamber weeks later. This time, he was not seated in the minor delegation tier. Humanity had been granted senior representation status unanimously. No debate, no objections. Respect replaced condescension. The Vrax delegate addressed him directly. "Your people altered the balance of power." Ward shook his head. "We altered expectations." Another representative asked carefully, "Will humanity intervene every time conflict arises?" Ward considered before answering. "No," he said, "but when innocent people are abandoned, we will not stand aside." The statement spread across the chamber like gravity. Not a threat, a promise. Meanwhile, deep within Dominion territory, consequences unfolded differently. Admiral Krell Varen stood before a tribunal, reviewing the failed blockade. Data from the battle played repeatedly behind him. The Sentinel advancing through overwhelming fire. Dominion fleets collapsing. Retreat orders issued. "You withdrew despite numerical superiority," one council member said sharply. Varen did not defend himself. He simply replied, "We face an opponent that did not measure victory the way we do." Murmurs spread. He continued calmly. They were willing to sacrifice everything to succeed. Against such an enemy, numbers are irrelevant. The council dismissed him from command. But privately, many officers studied his report carefully. The Dominion had learned something painful. Humanity was not aggressive, but once committed, it did not stop. Back in human space, reconstruction of the Sentinel began. Shipyards replaced armor plating with improved adaptive composites. Reactor systems received reinforcement upgrades. Combat AI algorithms expanded using data from Inyara battle. The ship evolved. So did its crew. Some returned to service immediately. Others took leave, struggling to adjust to quiet civilian life after surviving a battle few ships would have endured. Captain Ilian spent her leave walking along Earth's coastlines, far from military attention. She watched waves roll toward shore and thought about the moment the Dominion fleet had finally turned away. She understood something clearly now. The Sentinel had not won because it was stronger. It had won because it refused to fail. Months later, a secure message reached her personal terminal. Admiral Ren Okoye, Director of United Earth Strategic Command. The message was brief. Construction of Singularity-class vessel 2 complete. Designation, U.S. Guardian. Command assignment pending. Ilian read the message twice. Humanity was not building fleets to conquer the galaxy. It was building guardians. Ships designed to stand alone when necessary. She typed her response. Ready when needed. Far beyond human territory, unknown observers analyzed archived combat footage of the Sentinel engagement. Unidentified vessels drifted silently at the edge of mapped space, studying the battle frame by frame. Their conclusion transmitted across deep space. Human civilization classified. Cooperative protector species. Strategic threat level. Extreme. Direct confrontation not advised. The galaxy was watching humanity now. Not with dismissal, not with fear alone, but with recognition. When the weak called for help, humans came, even if only one ship answered. The first warning did not come from soldiers. It came from traitors. A civilian cargo convoy traveling the outer Persis corridor vanished without distress signals. No wreckage, no energy discharge, no piracy claim. The ships simply disappeared between one navigation beacon and the next. At first, the Galactic Accord classified it as an accident. Then a second convoy vanished. Then a scientific expedition. Then an entire patrol squadron belonging to a mid-tier Accord member species. No debris. No survivors. No explanation. The pattern formed slowly, like a shadow growing across a star map. Something was moving along the frontier. Something careful. Something patient. Human deep space monitoring stations noticed the anomaly before most military intelligence agencies did. Human doctrine treated silence as data. Lieutenant Analyst Kira Nadim sat inside Orbital Listening Post Atlas, reviewing long-range gravitational telemetry, when she noticed the irregularity. Star lanes were shifting, not physically. Traffic patterns were bending away from a region of space nearly 300 light-years wide. Ships were unconsciously avoiding it. Pilots changed routes without knowing why. Navigation AIs recalculated safer paths despite no recorded danger. She ran the probability model twice. Then a third time. Her report went directly to Strategic Command. Subject line: Unidentified strategic presence. Within hours, Captain Mara Ilian received a priority summons. The Sentinel rested in dry dock, half its hull replaced with new adaptive plating. Engineers protested loudly when orders arrived to accelerate repairs. Strategic Command rarely rushed deployments. When they did, it meant uncertainty. And uncertainty was dangerous. The briefing chamber aboard Earth Command Station was unusually crowded. Admirals, diplomats, scientific advisors, even observers from allied species attended. A holographic projection filled the room, an empty region of space marked by dozens of vanished vessels. Admiral Okoye spoke first. Over the past 4 months, 23 ships from 6 civilizations have disappeared here. The projection zoomed inward. No weapon signatures. No communications. No debris fields. A Carity observer shifted uneasily. A stealth empire? Unlikely, replied a human intelligence officer. No territorial claims. No occupation activity. Another analyst added quietly, whatever it is doesn't want territory. The room grew still. Ilian folded her arms. Then what does it want? Okoye looked directly at her. We don't know, and that is why the Sentinel is deploying. The mission parameters were different from Nyara Prime. No rescue request. No visible enemy. No battle lines. Just absence. Humanity was sending one ship again. Not as a warning. As an investigation. The Sentinel launched 3 days later. Repairs incomplete, but functional. Crew complement reduced. Many veterans requested reassignment despite psychological evaluations advising rest. They returned anyway, because crews bonded in battle rarely chose separation. Commander Hale resumed tactical command. Chief Malik returned to engineering. The combat AI, Argus, had been upgraded with expanded predictive modeling. As hyperspace engines ignited, Earth Command transmitted a final message. Unknown threat classification. Avoid escalation unless necessary. Ilian acknowledged, but she understood something unspoken. Humanity did not send the Sentinel because it expected peace. Humanity sent it because nobody else would go first. The frontier felt different. Even before sensors confirmed anomalies, the crew sensed it. Traffic vanished. Relay buoys stopped transmitting. Background radiation patterns shifted subtly, like echoes bouncing off something unseen. Argus spoke over the bridge speakers. I am detecting gravitational inconsistencies inconsistent with natural stellar phenomena. Define inconsistent, Hale said. A pause. Space appears disturbed. The word lingered. Disturbed. They found the first evidence 6 hours later. A drifting ship. Civilian freighter. Power dead. Hull intact. No battle damage. No life signs. Boarding teams entered cautiously. Inside, everything remained in place. Cargo secured. Systems functional. Personal belongings untouched. Meals sat half-finished. Tools lay where they had been dropped. It looked as if the crew had simply stood up and vanished. No decompression. No violence. Just absence. Lieutenant Reyes whispered over comms. Captain, it's like they were removed. Removed. Not killed. Not destroyed. Taken. Back on the bridge, long-range scanners suddenly flared with energy readings. Massive readings. Far beyond known ship signatures. The stars ahead warped slightly. Not visually. Mathematically. Argus' voice lowered in tone. Contact detected. A shape emerged slowly from darkness. Not a fleet. Not a station. One object. Larger than any vessel humanity had ever recorded. It did not resemble a ship. It resembled geometry made physical, vast angular structures folding into each other, surfaces shifting like living metal, emitting no propulsion signature, yet moving effortlessly. The Sentinel's sensor struggled to categorize it. No weapons locks detected. No communications. Just observation. The object turned, facing them. Every alarm remained silent. And somehow that was worse. After several seconds, a transmission appeared. Not audio, not language. A mathematical sequence streamed directly into the Sentinel systems. Argus processed it instantly, then paused. The AI had never paused before. Captain, Argus said carefully, the entity is asking a question. Ilian leaned forward. What question? The AI translated slowly. Why do you interfere when others do not? The bridge fell silent. The unknown intelligence was not hostile. Not yet. It was curious, studying humanity, the same way humanity studied it. Ilian activated communications. This is Captain Mara Ilian of the United Earthship Sentinel. Identify yourself. The reply arrived immediately. We are observers. Another pause. We remove unstable civilizations before they collapse into destructive expansion. The implication struck everyone at once. The missing crews. The vanished ships. They had not been attacked. They had been collected, judged. Ilian felt the weight of command settle heavily on her shoulders. Humanity had just encountered something older than galactic politics. Something that believed it protected the universe. And now it was evaluating humans. The transmission continued. You intervened at Nyara Prime against statistical outcome. We seek understanding. Ilian answered without hesitation. Because people needed help. Silence followed, long enough that tension crept through the bridge. Then the entity responded, unoptimized behavior. A faint pulse of energy rippled across space. Sensors struggled to interpret it. Explain why survival of another species outweighs efficiency. Every eye turned toward Ilion. The galaxy had feared humanity's power. Now, something ancient questioned humanity's philosophy itself. She took a breath. Because survival means more when it's shared. The Sentinel waited. So did the stars. And somewhere within that incomprehensibly vast structure, the observers consider humanity, for the first time, not as a developing species, but as a variable they had never encountered before. The entity did not answer immediately. Seconds stretched into minutes as the colossal structure remained motionless before the Sentinel. Stars bent faintly around its surface, gravitational distortions rippling like slow breaths through space itself. No weapons powered. No threats issued. Only observation. Argus finally spoke. "Captain, the object is scanning us at a molecular resolution." Ilion nodded. "Let it." Every instinct in military training warned against allowing an unknown intelligence unrestricted analysis. But this was not a normal encounter. This was first contact with something older than the Accord, older than the Dominion, possibly older than interstellar civilization itself. The observers were deciding what humanity was. A new transmission arrived. Again, not words, patterns. Argus translated carefully. "We observe contradiction. You possess capacity for overwhelming violence. You choose restraint." The bridge crew exchanged quiet glances. The entity had studied Nyara Prime. It had watched the Sentinel disable fleets without annihilating them. It understood power. It did not understand mercy. Ilion answered calmly. "Power without restraint creates fear. Fear creates endless war." A pause followed. Then the entity responded. "We eliminate civilizations before such instability spreads." A holographic projection formed spontaneously in the center of the bridge, generated by the alien signal itself. Stars appeared. Civilizations marked in light. Several blinked out. Erase. Argus processed rapidly. Historical records. "Captain, these correspond to extinct species referenced in ancient Accord archives." The realization settled heavily across the crew. The observers were not explorers. They were custodians. They removed civilizations they judged dangerous. And now humanity had drawn their attention. Commander Hale spoke quietly. "They're evaluating whether we become a threat." Ilion already knew. Humanity had intervened too boldly to remain unnoticed. The observer continued. "Probability models predict humanity will expand influence rapidly. Intervention behavior statistically destabilizing." Translation appeared again. Assessment required. The massive structure shifted slightly closer. Sensors screamed warnings before stabilizing. Distance now measured in kilometers instead of astronomical units. The Sentinel looked impossibly small beside it, yet it did not feel hunted. It felt examined. Argus suddenly hesitated. "Captain, I am receiving direct cognitive interface attempts." "Meaning?" Ilion asked. "It wishes to communicate without language." The room fell silent. Direct thought exchange with an unknown superintelligence violated every safety protocol ever written. But refusing might itself be interpreted as hostility. Ilion made her decision. Open controlled interface. Limit access to my neural link only. Medical officers protested instantly. She raised a hand. "If this is a test, we don't pass it by hiding." The link engaged. For an instant, she felt nothing. Then reality changed. She was no longer standing on the Sentinel's bridge. She stood within a vast darkness filled with moving constellations. Memories not her own flowed around her. Galaxies forming. Stars dying. Civilizations rising and collapsing across unimaginable spans of time. The observers did not think like individuals. They thought like history itself. A presence addressed her directly, not in words, in understanding. "You risk extinction to protect others." "Explain." Images filled her mind. Human explorers crossing oceans without certainty. Rescue teams entering disasters, knowing they might not return. The Sentinel advancing toward 340 warships because surrender morality felt worse than dying. She answered with emotion rather than logic. Because survival alone is not enough. The presence analyzed the thought. Inefficient. She responded instinctively. "Maybe, but it's human." The darkness shifted. New memories surfaced. Observer experiences. They had watched countless civilizations destroy themselves through conquest, expansion, and fear. They intervened early to prevent galactic catastrophe. To them, mercy had historically led to extinction-scale wars. Humanity's behavior contradicted their models. You choose risk repeatedly. Yes, you preserve adversaries instead of eliminating them. Yes. Why? She searched for the simplest truth. Because tomorrow matters more than winning today. Silence followed. Long, profound silence. She returned to her body suddenly, breath catching as the bridge reappeared around her. Medical officers rushed forward, but she waved them back. I'm fine. Argus spoke softly. The entity has ceased scanning. Outside, the colossal structure drifted backward, creating distance. Then a final transmission appeared. Humanity classification updated. The crew waited. Designation. Protective variable. Another pause. You introduce instability. But then, instability associated with preservation rather than destruction. The implication stunned everyone. Humanity had not been condemned. It had been accepted. The observer continued. We will not remove humanity. Relief spread across the bridge. But the message was not finished. We will observe. Your species represents an unpredicted evolutionary pathway. The massive structure began folding inward, geometry collapsing into impossible angles. Before disappearing, one final question arrived. If future civilizations threaten galactic survival, will humanity intervene? Ilian answered immediately. Yes. The reply came instantly. Then we share purpose. And the observer vanished. No hyperspace wake. No energy spike. One moment it existed. The next, empty stars remained. Silence filled the bridge. Commander Hale exhaled slowly. Did we just pass judgment? Ilian stared at the empty space ahead. No, she said quietly. We were invited into responsibility. Argus added, almost thoughtfully, Captain, long-range sensors indicate observer activity withdrawing from frontier regions. They are leaving? Correct. Humanity had changed something ancient, not through force, through principle. As the Sentinel turned for home, a realization settled over the crew. The galaxy had feared humanity's strength, but something far older had recognized something else entirely. Humans did not fight because they wanted power. They fought because they refused to abandon others. And now the oldest guardians in known space were watching humanity, not as a threat, but as successors. The Sentinel's return journey felt different. No alarms, no enemy fleets waiting in ambush, no desperate countdown toward catastrophe. Yet none of the crew relaxed, because every person aboard understood one truth. Humanity was no longer unnoticed. Something ancient now watched them, and expectation carried its own weight. News of the encounter reached Earth long before the Sentinel arrived. Encrypted data burst transmitted fragments of the contact report through relay networks, triggering the highest-level emergency session in human history. For the first time since joining the Galactic Accord, humanity classified an event as existential diplomatic priority. Not a war, not a threat, a responsibility. The United Earth Council chamber filled with representatives from every major alliance partner, Carity military observers, Vrax diplomats, independent frontier states. Even former Dominion envoys attended under temporary ceasefire agreements. Humanity had requested transparency. If the observers existed, every civilization needed to understand the implications. Admiral Okoye opened the session. The Sentinel encountered an intelligence responsible for multiple historical disappearances across the frontier. A projection displayed reconstructed images of the observer structure. The chamber fell silent. Even hardened military commanders shifted uneasily. They are not invaders, Okoye continued. They consider themselves guardians of galactic stability. Murmurs spread. One delegate asked carefully, Guardians or executioners? Okoye did not soften the answer. Both. Commander Elias Ward summarized conclusion. They remove civilizations they believe will become catastrophic threats. A ripple of alarm passed through the assembly. For centuries, species that assumed extinct civilizations vanished through war or natural collapse. Now another possibility existed. They had been judged and erased. The Vrax representative spoke quietly. And humanity? Ward allowed himself a small smile. They decided to keep watching us. Across the galaxy, intelligence agencies reacted immediately. Military doctrines rewritten. Expansion policies reconsidered. Aggressive empires suddenly slowed territorial ambitions because the observers intervened against destabilizing civilizations. Reckless conquest now carried unimaginable consequences. Humanity had unintentionally changed galactic behavior simply by surviving the evaluation. Aboard the Sentinel, Captain Ilian reviewed psychological reports from her crew. Many experienced an unfamiliar emotion, not fear, perspective. They had faced fleets before. But confronting a civilization that measured time in millennia forced humans to confront their own place in history. Lieutenant Reyes summarized it bluntly during a crew meeting. We always thought we were the new kids trying to survive. He shook his head. Turns out we're being considered for guardianship. No one laughed, because it felt true. The Accord soon announced a new initiative. Joint Peacekeeping Response Command. A cooperative defense structure designed to prevent crises before they required intervention. Human officers were asked to help lead it, not because humanity was strongest, but because humanity had demonstrated willingness to act when others hesitated. The lesson of Nyara Prime still echoed. Someone had to step forward first. Meanwhile, deep in former Dominion territory, political collapse accelerated. Client worlds declared independence under protection agreements with the Accord. Military expansion halted. Dominion leadership quietly issued new directives. Avoid confrontation with humanity at all costs. Admiral Krell Varen, once disgraced for retreating from the Sentinel, was recalled. His experience fighting humans became valuable expertise. History had reclassified defeat as wisdom. 3 months after first contact, construction yards beyond Jupiter activated again. The U.S. Guardian entered final assembly. Unlike the Sentinel, its design incorporated lessons learned from both the Nyara battle and the Observer encounter. Enhanced diplomacy modules, expanded rescue capacity, improved non-lethal engagement systems. Human strategy was evolving. Power alone was no longer the goal. Preparedness was. Captain Ilian visited the shipyard during construction. The Guardian floated unfinished against the stars, larger than the Sentinel, its hull reflecting distant sunlight. Engineers moved across its surface like tiny sparks of life. She felt something unexpected. Pride, not in dominance. In purpose. Humanity was not building weapons to rule the galaxy. It was building ships capable of standing alone when needed. Ships that could arrive when hope was almost gone. That night, a quiet transmission arrived at Strategic Command. No origin signature. No detectable source. Argus identified the signal pattern instantly. Observer communication. The message contained only one statement. Humanity's trajectory remains under observation. Then another line appeared. Probability of cooperative stability increasing. No threat, no warning, just acknowledgement. Humanity had not replaced the observers, but it had earned their attention as partners in safeguarding the future. Far on the edge of explored space, another civilization watched human expansion with growing curiosity. Unlike the observers, they were neither ancient nor benevolent. They analyzed humanity's rising influence with strategic interest. Their conclusion transmitted across hidden networks. Species demonstrates protective behavior, combined with exponential technological growth. Potential long-term competitor. Preparation orders followed. The galaxy was entering a new era. Humanity had proven itself to the oldest watchers in existence. Now new powers were beginning to notice. And not all of them would come with questions. Some would come with challenges. The first hostile signal arrived without introduction. No diplomatic greeting. No identification code. No translation protocol. Just a burst of compressed data aimed directly at human deep space networks. Every monitoring station across the frontier lit up simultaneously. Threat classification algorithms activated before analysts even understood what they were seeing. Lieutenant Kira Nadim stared at her console in disbelief. Unknown fleet signatures emerging beyond map space, she reported. How many? her supervisor asked. She swallowed. Hundreds. Unlike previous encounters, these vessels did not hide. They advanced openly. Formation precise. Movement synchronized with machine perfection. Their ships were narrow and elongated, built for speed and coordinated assault rather than endurance. Hulls shimmered with adaptive energy fields unfamiliar to human sensors. They moved like predators confident in victory. Within minutes, long-range probes confirmed their trajectory. They were heading toward a minor Accord colony world. No demands transmitted. No negotiation attempt. Just approach. The Accord Council convened instantly. Panic spread faster than information. Some delegates argued evacuation. Others demanded defensive mobilization. Many simply waited for humanity to speak. Because everyone remembered Nyara Prime. And everyone knew what happened when humans decided to act. Commander Elias Ward stood. "They are not probing," he said calmly. "They are testing response time." The chamber quieted. "If we hesitate," he continued, "they learn the galaxy still freezes under pressure." A Vrax diplomat asked, "Can the Accord fleet stop them?" Ward answered honestly, "Not before they reach the colony." Silence followed. Then someone asked a question already forming in every mind. Will humanity respond? Ward activated his communicator. They already have. The Sentinel launched before the meeting ended. Repairs barely finished. Crew recalled within minutes. Captain Mara Ilian stood on the bridge as hyperspace engines prepared for jump. Argus displayed incoming intelligence. Unknown civilization designation. Provisional name, the Ascendancy. Observed behavior, expansionist. Communication attempts, none. Strategic intent, unknown. Probability of hostile engagement, 94%. Commander Hale looked at Ilian. Feels familiar. She nodded. Difference is, this time they're looking for a fight. As the Sentinel entered hyperspace, a second alert reached Earth Command. The U.S. Guardian launched as well. Humanity was not sending one ship. It was sending two. Not escalation. Preparation. The Ascendancy fleet reached the colony system first. Civilian transports attempted evacuation under emergency orders. Orbital defenses powered online despite overwhelming odds. The colony governor transmitted a final message to the Accord. "We will hold as long as we can." Ascendancy ships formed attack positions. Weapons charged. Energy readings exceeded known Dominion warship output. Still no communication. They were measuring resistance, evaluating weakness. Then space fractured. Hyperspace ruptured open between the fleet and the planet. The Sentinel emerged at full burn. Moments later, another rupture formed behind it. The Guardian arrived. Two human warships positioned themselves between the colony and the unknown armada, side by side, outnumbered, unmoving. A universal broadcast transmitted automatically. "This is Captain Mara Ilian of the United Earth Navy. You are approaching protected civilian world. State your intent." For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the Ascendancy responded. Their signal translated harshly through linguistic algorithms. "We expand. Resistance determines worthiness." The message carried no anger, no arrogance, only certainty. Ilian exchanged a glance with Hale. They believe conflict proves superiority. Argus confirmed. Cultural model consistent with trial-based dominance hierarchy. The Ascendancy continued. You deploy only 2 vessels. Assessment. Insufficient defense. Ilian allowed herself a faint smile. We've heard that before. Weapons powered across the alien fleet. Target locks flooded the Sentinel sensors. Argus calculated firing solutions instantly. Captain, hostile engagement imminent. She opened a fleet-wide channel. To all Ascendancy vessels. You are making a mistake. The reply came instantly. Demonstrate otherwise. And they fired. Energy beams converged toward the 2 human ships. The Guardian activated first. Its new defensive arrays expanded outward, forming layered fields that absorbed the initial volley in a burst of blinding light. The Sentinel accelerated forward simultaneously, drones launching in coordinated waves. Human doctrine activated without hesitation. Protect first, and the threat second. The battle began. Across the galaxy, observers watched live telemetry. Accord fleets scrambled but remained hours away. The colony population waited beneath defensive shields, watching two human ships confront an armada. History felt dangerously close to repeating itself. But this time, humanity was not proving a warning. It was defending an idea. That strength existed to shield the vulnerable. The Sentinel struck first. Precision beams disabled lead ascendancy vessels, targeting engines and weapon nodes. The Guardian deployed support drones, intercepting incoming fire and reinforcing planetary defenses simultaneously. Together, the ships fought like parts of one mind. Argus coordinated with Guardian's AI in real time, sharing targeting data faster than organic command structures could comprehend. The Ascendancy hesitated, not retreating, recalculating. Their formation shifted, adapting aggressively. They were learning, and unlike previous enemies, they welcomed resistance. Their next attack intensified tenfold. Ilian watched tactical displays fill with red contacts. 2 ships against hundreds. Again, but something had changed since Nyara Prime. Humanity was no longer alone. Accord reinforcement fleets accelerated toward the system. Allies inspired by humanity's example were finally moving without hesitation. The lesson had spread. When danger appeared, you acted. You did not wait. The Ascendancy transmitted once more during the battle. Your species chooses protection over conquest. Unusual. Ilian answered while guiding her ship through incoming fire. Try it sometime. The alien response arrived almost immediately. We will evaluate. Their fleet advanced, weapons charging for a decisive strike. And for the first time since the Observer's judgment, humanity faced an opponent not seeking understanding, but competition. The battle changed the moment the Ascendancy understood they were not fighting victims. They were fighting equals. Their fleet tightened formation, abandoning probing attacks. Hundreds of vessels aligned into geometric assault patterns designed for overwhelming pressure rather than testing engagement. Argus updated projections instantly. Enemy tactical behavior shifting from evaluation to decisive dominance attempt. Commander Hale exhaled slowly. They've decided we're worth defeating. Captain Mara Ilian nodded. Good, she said quietly. Now they're predictable. The Sentinels surged forward, not retreating, advancing directly into the enemy formation. To most species, charging a numerically superior fleet appeared reckless. To humans, it reduced enemy advantages. Distance favored numbers. Close engagement favored coordination. The Guardian mirrored the maneuver, maintaining overlap and defensive coverage while deploying reinforcement drones toward the colony's orbital shield grid. Below them, millions of civilians watched streaks of light cross the sky. 2 ships holding back an armada. Hope felt fragile, but it existed. The Ascendancy adapted quickly. Their ships moved with frightening unity, repositioning as if guided by a shared consciousness. Energy weapons recalibrated mid-battle, compensating for human shield frequencies within seconds. They learned fast, Hale warned. Argus confirmed. Enemy tactical evolution rate exceeds Dominion parameters by 230%. Ilian smiled faintly. Then we learn faster. Human doctrine shifted again. Instead of concentrating firepower, the Sentinel and Guardian divided roles dynamically. The Sentinel became the spear. The Guardian became the shield. Sentinel drones pierced enemy formations, targeting command relays hidden within Ascendancy ships. Each disabled node disrupted coordination, forcing the alien fleet to rely on localized decision-making. For the first time, gaps appeared. The Guardian exploited them immediately. Non-lethal pulse waves disabled multiple attackers simultaneously, knocking ships offline without catastrophic destruction. Humanity fought to stop, not annihilate. The Ascendancy noticed. A transmission cut through combat channels. You limit lethality despite advantage. Ilian responded while monitoring damage reports. We're not here to prove dominance. Then why fight? Because you attack people who couldn't defend themselves. The reply paused longer this time. Processing. The alien fleet intensified pressure. Massive energy lances struck the Sentinel's port side, tearing away armor sections and triggering internal alarms. Damage teams rushed through corridors filled with smoke and flashing emergency lights. Hull integrity dropped. Crew casualties reported. Still the ship advanced. Ilian remembered the observer's question. Why risk survival for others? Because humanity always had. Because someone had to stand between danger and the innocent. Across the system, hyperspace ruptures began opening. Accord reinforcement fleets arrived. Carity battlecruisers. Rax carriers. Independent defense flotillas. Ships that once hesitated now entered combat without waiting for orders. The galaxy had learned. Human courage was contagious. The Ascendancy subtly faced resistance from every direction. Their formations faltered, not from fear, but surprise. The broadcast channel opened again. Multiple civilizations unite for defense. Unexpected. Ilian allowed herself a brief laugh. Yeah, we've been working on that. The turning point came when the Guardian activated its experimental system. A wide-spectrum stabilization field expanded across the battlefield, disrupting hostile targeting solutions without harming enemy crews. Ascendancy weapons lost precision. Their fleet slowed, not defeated. Confused, they had evolved through conquest. They had never encountered opposition focused on preservation rather than destruction. The Sentinel seized a moment. Its spinal accelerator fired, not at ships, but at empty space ahead of the alien formation. The kinetic shockwave shattered their attack geometry, scattering vessels without destroying them. A message followed immediately. You can withdraw. No threat, no ultimatum. An offer. The Ascendancy fleet halted, weapons powered down incrementally. For the first time since arrival, they stopped advancing. The battlefield fell silent, except for drifting debris and damaged ships stabilizing. Then came their reply. You demonstrate strength without extermination. Your objective is protection, not expansion. A pause. Assessment revised. The largest Ascendancy vessel moved forward alone. We sought civilizations capable of resisting us. To identify future rivals. Another pause. You are not rivals. You are counterbalance. Ilian felt the tension across her bridge ease slightly. What happens now? She asked. The response arrived calmly. We observe further. Conflict unnecessary. One by one, Ascendancy ships withdrew, slipping into hyperspace without hostility. The Armada vanished as suddenly as it had arrived. Cheers erupted across the Sentinel's bridge. Not victory celebrations. Relief. Survival. The colony world remained untouched. Allied fleets stabilized positions around it, forming a defensive ring that symbolized something new. Unity achieved without coercion. Humanity had not won alone. It had inspired others to stand. Hours later, a quiet transmission appeared on a secure channel. Origin unknown. Pattern recognition identified it immediately. Observer signal. Humanity continues deviation from predicted conflict models. Another line followed. Outcome favorable. Then, guardianship potential increasing. The message ended. Ilian leaned back in her chair, exhausted but thoughtful. Humanity had passed another test. Not through superior firepower. Through choice. Through restraint. Through refusal to become what it fought against. Outside the viewport, Allied ships drifted peacefully where battle had nearly consumed them. For the first time in galactic history, multiple civilizations had stood together before destruction arrived, and they had not waited for permission. They had acted. The galaxy did not celebrate loudly. It changed quietly. In the weeks following the Ascendancy withdrawal, something subtle spread across known space. Military alerts relaxed. Border tensions cooled. Expansion fleets slowed their movements. Civilizations began asking a new question. Not can we win, but should we fight at all? Humanity had demonstrated something none of the great powers expected. Strength could stabilize rather than dominate, and others were beginning to imitate it. The colony world the Ascendancy had targeted became known as Unity Haven. Accord engineers reinforced its defenses, not as a fortress, but as a symbol. Ships from dozens of species rotated through its orbit on cooperative patrols. Former rivals served side by side. Carity officers trained alongside human tacticians. Vrax pilots exchanged combat data with Dominion defectors. For the first time, interstellar security resembled partnership rather than competition. Commander Elias Ward summarized it during an Accord address. "We didn't defeat an enemy," he said. "We proved cooperation works faster than fear." The chamber listened carefully, because everyone had watched two human ships stand alone until others found the courage to join them. Aboard the Sentinel, repairs continued. The ship bore new scars from another impossible engagement. Entire armor sections required replacement, and several drone wings were permanently lost. Yet morale remained unusually calm. The crew no longer saw themselves as survivors of desperate missions. They saw themselves as part of something larger. Lieutenant Reyes said it best during a quiet meal rotation. "Feels like we're not just fighting wars anymore." Chief Malik nodded. "Feels like we're building rules." Captain Mara Ilian spent long hours reviewing strategic updates. Reports showed reduced conflict incidents across Accord space by nearly 40%. Pirate activity declined. Border skirmishes resolved through mediation instead of force. Even former Dominion sectors showed increased diplomatic communication. The observer message echoed in her thoughts. Protective variable. Humanity was altering galactic behavior simply by existing. Then the unexpected happened. A joint transmission arrived simultaneously to every major government, military command, and exploration network. Source: the Ascendancy. Unlike before, this message carried formal structure. Translation protocols activated automatically. "We have completed secondary evaluation. We recognize humanity as stabilizing civilization." Another line followed. "We request exchange." Shock rippled across the Accord. The Ascendancy, an expansionist power that tested species through combat, was requesting diplomacy. They wanted dialogue. Emergency meetings resumed. Some leaders feared deception. Others argued opportunity. Human representatives remained calm. Captain Ilian was summoned again. Her experience placed her at the center of events once more. "You made first contact through battle," Admiral Okoye told her. "You'll make second contact through peace." The Sentinel received new orders. Escort a diplomatic delegation to neutral space, not as a weapon, as reassurance. The meeting point lay beyond map borders, a quiet star system untouched by colonization. When the Sentinel arrived, a single Ascendancy vessel waited, smaller than their warships but still massive compared to human cruisers. Weapons inactive, shields lowered, a sign of trust. Ilian transmitted greeting protocols. The response came immediately. "We seek understanding of cooperative strength." A projection appeared aboard the Sentinel. An Ascendancy representative rendered in shifting light patterns rather than physical form. Their presence felt analytical, but no longer hostile. "You defended weaker civilizations without territorial claim," they said. "Yes," Ilian replied. "Explain motivation." She considered carefully. "Because safety shared is stronger than power held alone." The alien paused. "We believe dominance ensured survival." Ilian smiled slightly. "Humans tried that once. It didn't work." The representative processed silently, then responded. "We observe alliances forming around your species, influence expanding without conquest." Another pause. This outcome was not predicted. Ilian nodded. Sometimes survival improves when nobody stands alone. The Ascendancy offered something unprecedented: joint exploration, shared monitoring of unstable regions, cooperative intervention against existential threats. They were not surrendering power. They were adapting. Humanity had not defeated them. It had changed their calculation. Weeks later, the Galactic Accord ratified the Unity Charter, a doctrine inspired by the events at Nyara Prime and Unity Haven. No civilization facing extinction-level threat would stand alone again. Intervention became obligation, not debate. The vote passed almost unanimously. History recorded it as the moment the galaxy matured politically, not through victory, through example. Far beyond known space, another observer signal activated. The ancient intelligence reviewed updated galactic patterns. Conflict probability declining. Cooperative networks expanding. Human influence stabilizing multiple regions simultaneously. Their final assessment transmitted silently across hidden channels. Humanity approaching guardian status. For beings who measure civilizations across millions of years, The statement carried enormous meaning. Humanity was no longer merely surviving the galaxy. It was helping guide it. Back on Earth, Captain Mar-Ilian stood once more beneath open sky. The Sentinel orbited quietly overhead. The Guardian prepared for its first long-range patrol. New ships already entered construction. Not fleets of conquest. A network of protectors. Her communicator chimed. Admiral Okoye's message appeared. Multiple systems requesting joint protection agreements. She looked up at the stars. Once, humanity had feared the darkness between them. Now ships bearing human insignia traveled into that darkness willingly. Not to rule, not to conquer, but to stand where others could not. She smiled softly. Tomorrow would bring new crises, new unknown civilizations, new tests. But the galaxy had learned something important. When hope seemed impossible, sometimes only one ship needed to arrive, and humanity would always send it.